Hello there, how y'all doing tonight? I have just watched the most shameful display by a employee of the BBC, not two employees by the BBC, I've ever seen in my life. The first one is to do with the interview with Owen Jones on this week. He was talking about how the right wing media must take accountability for the fact of all the extremism that's been created, the fueling up of hatred. And his arguments were fair and they were valid arguments. They were talking about how there were many people out there that fed off the Mail and the Sun and all these other, and even, which is what Andrew Neil panicked about, the Spectator. All these publications are vilifying anyone that's different, either be they black, refugee, Muslim, anyone, and that's always been the tactic of the right wing media, by the way. Nothing's ever changed. Now, the problem is, though, they've been pushing it and pushing it lately, and if the right wing media can't face up to the fact that Tommy Robinson and this other guy, that was the protest, they're their bastard children, and it's kind of like the royal establishment, they will not accept that they are responsible for them, but it's because of the right wing media hate that they exist in the first place. It's the fact that they have a voice. Now, Portillo's argument was, well, they've got to, well, we have valid concerns about people, and anyone who disagrees is called a racist. No. How it works, and this is how it's meant to work, by the way, is if you have a valid concern about an Islam, say an outsider, you actually go up to them, face it, meet them, talk about things, and usually you'll be alright. But there's always been this major push against anyone that's different. We saw it with the Shrivers and Shakers that Cameron did. We saw it with the Windrush generation. We saw it with many other points. This is what Owen Jones was trying to get out. The way the right wing media has forced the narrative to be aggressive, and I believe this is why a lot of people became anti-European, and there's a lot of arguments to it. It's how the right wing media always goes. His arguments were fairly well thought out. Then Michael Portillo basically did something that was horrendous. Now, whether you are left or right, the one thing you do not do is you do not smear the leader of the opposition on TV and expect people not to be annoyed with it. Firstly, he made the claim that he was in league with the IRA. By the way, this has been proven baseless and falseless. It was a smear that was created by the right-wing media. There is absolutely no major evidence of it at all. They may have had photos, but Margaret Thatcher had photos with dictators, so, you can't. But it was trying to talk to the leaders of these political parties. Sinn Féin have actually stated that he never was with it. It's the same as when they had a spy claim that Corbyn was a commie. We've had it all. Now, I can understand Owen Jones being very annoyed at this point, because Portillo is basically the apologist for the right-wing media at this point. Andrew Neil is not letting him get a word in edgeways. Now, as a host of an impartial political programme, you should not have allowed one of the guests to be barraged with statements that cannot be proven, that may or may not be factually correct, and not scold the other person. It's the BBC is supposed to be impartial, for God's sake. And I would assume if Owen Jones had smeared Margaret Thatcher or David Cameron, Andrew Neil would have come down on a ton of bricks with him. But what did we find? Oh, as soon as Owen Jones mentions The Spectator, a magazine that Andrew Neil edits, Andrew Neil goes on a massive panic and talks over him. Instead of letting Owen Jones speak, then Andrew Neil can make the statement. He panicked, he talked over him, and he basically panicked and tried to shut him down. Yet, it just goes to show that Andrew Neil, he rattled Andrew Neil, and that was obvious. Yet, I've seen all the right wing posts about Owen Jones being a spoilt child and Owen Jones being all sorts of different things. Remember, Owen Jones is a journalist who is on the left. If you haven't read his book, Chavs, The Demonisation of the Working Class, please read it. It is a very interesting read, and it talks about how the media has demonised the working class, and we are seeing it now. We are seeing the media now demonising anyone that is pro-Europe because it does not suit their agenda. And Owen Jones' point was that the right-wing media can no longer accept that they weren't partially responsible for the right-wing extremists like Tommy Robinson, Katie Hopkins, and so on and so on. And the fact that a MP was attacked. And this is the point. There is more evidence of propaganda, and for a company, basically a organisation that we pay money to for the right to watch TV shows, is allowing smear of political leaders to go ahead unchallenged or not corrected is shameful. Owen Jones was ganged up by Portillo and O'Neill, and he actually fought back and won. Because all Andrew Neil could do was silence him and try and out-talk him. But I guarantee you now, everyone will be looking at Andrew Neil, and I bet you there will be complaints to the BBC about the way he was treated. And sorry, you right-wing snowflakes. You moan about, I've seen it, you moan about gammon, about being a racist term. It's not. It's a Charles Dickens term for someone who was a racist, xenophobic, but hid it under a false cloud of patriotism. When we use gammon, we're not talking about the colour of your skin. We're talking about gammon-like tendencies. And if you believe it is anything but that, then you kind of prove our point. So, and that is the point you're making. You can't moan about being called racist if you do racist things. Okay, I'll see you later. Bye.